Peter Cardwell is here. Welcome back, Peter. TalkRadio's political editor. You've been watching Prime Minister's questions for us. What have you been seeing?
Yeah, pretty lively one today, actually. Pretty stealthy questions from Sir Keir Starmer. I think he was marginally winning today. He called for an election at one point, but he also tackled Boris Johnson on the big issue, of course, which is dominating the political discussion, if not the national discussion, which is, of course, the honours debate.
Yes, of course.
Mr. Speaker, the truth is, for all his tough talk after the event, the Prime Minister did sign off the honours list. And that means, Mr. Speaker, that those who threw a Downing Street party the night before the late Queen sat alone at her husband's funeral will now receive awards from the King. If he's so tough, why didn't you block it?
Mr. Speaker, as I said, I and the government follow due process and convention. Prime Ministers of both parties have always upheld the convention of non-interference on political honours. My predecessors may not have agreed with Labour's choices of Tom Watson or Shami Chakrabarti, but the same precedent, Mr. Speaker, the same precedent stood then as it does now, and I'd expect a knight like him to understand that.
I think we will have more if we carry on. It'll be more outside rather than here. Keir Starmer.
Honour should be for public service, not Tory cronies. But Mr. Speaker, isn't this the case? He was too weak to block Johnson's list. And that also means that those who spent their time helping cover up Johnson's law-breaking are rewarded by becoming lawmakers for the rest of their lives. Is his message to the British public, if you don't like it, tough?
Mr. Speaker, it's right that we use the honour system to recognise people, almost 2,000 people a year, from members of the England Lionesses team to the first Asian police officer in Greater Manchester. But he talks about putting people in the House of Lords. Perhaps he could explain why he put forward for a peerage the former MP, Labour MP Tom Watson, who spread vicious conspiracy theories that were totally and utterly untrue, damaged public discourse and inflicted misery on innocent people.
Quiet. Can I just say to the Prime Minister, he shouldn't criticise other members. Also, you're not responsible for the other parties. You are the Prime Minister that's answering the questions, not asking the questions. Here's some.
Just answer the questions. Indeed. There was another interesting one from the SNP, I hear.
Yes, indeed. Stephen Flynn, their newish Westminster leader, did not miss and hit the wall when he was talking about the economy. He wanted to kind of move things away a little bit from the discussion on. Of course, we have this fascinating discussion as well about Nicola Sturgeon as well, and Rishi Sunak made reference to the fact that she was sent a bunch of flowers by SNP politicians. Let's have a look at what Stephen Flynn had to say.
Mr. Speaker, during his ill-fated leadership bid late last summer, the Prime Minister warned of the perils of mortgage rate rises. Indeed, he stated, and I quote, "It's going to tip millions of people into misery, and it's going to mean we have absolutely no chance of winning the next election." Given that mortgage rates continue to rise, does he still agree with his own electoral analysis?
Mr. Speaker, which is absolutely why our economic policy sets as our number one priority to reduce inflation and thereby bring interest rates, which, by the way, Mr. Speaker, have also risen in pretty much every developed economy around the world, more so in places like America and New Zealand, similar in other countries as well, like Australia. But it is important, in order to reduce inflation, that you do need to have control over borrowing, Mr. Speaker, which is why we, unlike the party opposite, are disciplined with regard to the public finances. But these are the issues that we should be focused on. I saw that the SNP yesterday, Mr. Speaker, had a meeting to discuss their future, but the only thing they managed to decide was that they should send Nicola Sturgeon some flowers. So can he tell us, did he sign the card?
Stephen Flynn.
Mr. Speaker, respectfully, I think the Prime Minister needs to grow up. There is a
death stare from Stephen Flynn.
That's good, though, isn't it? I mean, they're both kind of in the same problematic situation there, aren't they, really?
With former leaders, yes, exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, nobody can cast the first stone, really.
No, exactly. No, it is fascinating, and yeah, it is kind of weird. I mean, what did they put on the card? Sorry, you've been arrested.
Yes.
You know, that's the sort of...
See you soon.
Yes.
My
indeed.
favourite quote, I think, of the week was, if Nicola Sturgeon had still been First Minister, she would have suspended herself. But nobody else seems willing to do it.
Well, perhaps she'll go off into the sunset in the motorhome, who knows?
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, Prime Minister's questions, there's a lot about the economy, there's a lot about the serious stuff as well, but the honours debate is still dominating what people are talking about in Westminster. Of course, Nadine Dorries saying there was a conspiracy against her, saying that there were posh boys in Rishi Sunak and his sidekick, James Forsyth, who's his senior aide political secretary, who were involved with this. Number 10 denying that, and this really dominated a lot of Prime Minister's questions.
And as far as the 3 by-elections, which are going to be upcoming, how soon will they happen?
We think the 20th of July for the first 2, so the Selby and Ainstey, where there is a 20,000-ish majority for the Conservatives, but as we've seen in Tiverton and Honiton, and indeed in Chesham and Amersham previously, that's no guarantee that it's a safe, in quotes, Conservative seat. So we'll see what happens there. Certainly Oxbridge and South Ruislip, Boris Johnson's constituency, there's only about a majority of 7,000 there, and I think that's going to be a key Labour target. Selby and Ainstey is going to be a big one for the Liberal Democrats as well. Interestingly, if you want to resign as an MP, you can't actually just say, look, I resign. You've got to do this thing where you apply for a job, essentially, as this kind of weird job as steward of the manor of the...
This is where all these hundreds are coming
from, the
from,
Chiltern Hundreds and all the rest of it. But, yeah, so they are resigned because they have a Crown office. It's a very weird and ancient system. But nonetheless, Nadine Dorries actually hasn't done that yet. So the big question that everybody's saying is she actually going to stop being an MP? Because she's still an MP, whereas Boris Johnson and this other guy, Nigel Adams, former Cabinet Minister, aren't MPs. So Nadine Dorries still an MP. We'll see what happens with that.
Well, I mean, she did say to me on Friday morning that she had no intention of causing a by-election.
Maybe she had no intention of causing a by-election, then things changed.
Yeah, I don't think she did. Maybe she's gone back to that. Who can say? Fascinating stuff. Peter Cardwell, thank you very much indeed.